Dealing with topics is a quick path to start taking things out of context and incorporate philosophy instead of scripture. A topical approach to the content of scripture or subjects of theology can be a quick path to starting a cult, which is why Calvinists are in so much trouble. Their doctrines are built on topics and philosophical concepts, many of which are not even hinted at in scripture. If you're a Calvinist, your problem is rejection of scriptural authority in exchange for philosophical terminology to which you believe that scripture must be held subject. If you don't believe that, then you need to think long and hard about where you learn to talk like you do, because you didn't learn that from scripture. You got that from a man who duped your unintelligent, weak mind into believing the idea that you'd be a man-exalting semi-Pelagian if you didn't buy his snake oil. As a result, you are now a slave to the most man-exalting theology in Christendom next to papistry, that is, Calvinism. I'm not necessarily doing that. I'm talking about maybe you could say the psychotechnologies of why people become a Calvinist. And our culture installs in us a software base that needs updating, that needs. And so there's certain things like psychotechnologies that are important here to think about. Now you can transform not just people much more rapidly, but you can transform entire cultures. So we are basically being programmed from the time you're born with a set of psychotechnologies wherewith you interact with your environment, okay? If you fall for some kind of false system, you have a psychotechnology that's not very good. You take the scientific method, for example. Now, the scientific method is a good method because it allows for an iterative, progressively improving, self-correcting process. And though that understanding is essentially a psychotechnology, things that you know, things that you understand. Maybe there are some psychotechnologies that would allow you to learn things better, more objectively. Beyond literacy, there are psychotechnologies for how we deal with information. Now, you don't want the learning to be about conclusions. You want the learning to be about sound epistemological processes. That is, tools, psychotechnological tools with which we can approach scripture in order to correctly and objectively understand it. When it comes to network defense or information system defense, which is what your mind is an information system. You have heuristic-based intrusion detection and intrusion prevention systems, and you have signature-based or definition-based intrusion detection and intrusion prevention systems. The transformation that has to take place, there's a developmental psychologist, Piaget, and he talked about a transformation in what you're looking at is how this usually gets taught is quantitative. Four-way trajectory. And then we're transformed into having the four types of knowing. We covered that last week. The four types of knowing are propositional, procedural, perspectival, and participatory. That comes, cognitive science breaks that down for us. Four types of knowing. Propositional knowing, procedural, and perspective and participatory. And propositional knowing is about conviction of truth claims. Procedural knowing is like knowing how to catch a baseball. It's engagement, practical demonstration of empowerment, the ability to do something. All right. Perspectival knowing is having an optimal grip on a situation, knowing where all the moving pieces are and what from your perspective and where you fit in the tool. And then participatory knowing is attunement and connectedness, and that continuity of contact is what John Vervaeke says, that continuity of contact, that attunement and connectedness with the arena and agency relationship. Now, this is the most important thing I will ever cover on my channel. If you never get anything out of my channel but this series, this would be worth it, and this would be life-changing. People who come to my sessions live and learn this firsthand say it is the most important thing they've ever learned. If you're in a small church you're trying to grow, this is going to be dynamite. You can really grow your church by teaching your people how to read, understand, interpret the Bible, look at what it says, what it means, and how it applies. Now, I want to push pause on the idea that we're talking about biblical interpretation and realize the Bible is just the evidence that we have. If we want theological truth, the Bible is just the evidence that we're working with. Okay, the evidence has to be examined. And in order to examine the evidence, we're going to look at the scientific method. Now, deductive reasoning is good. The deductive method for scientific process is bad. So two different things. I don't want you to get those confused.